Every soul is a candle. Every soul is a candle.
Good evening, everybody, or if you're in another part of the world listening, whatever time of day it is there, this is Phillip Namanworth. Welcome to Creative Spirituality, a journey that we all seem to be sharing, many of us here for a long time together. Newcomers welcome, and it's a place where stories are told. It's interesting about entertainment in general. Entertainment's of certain sorts can revolve around storytelling, songwriting, art, even the story of sort of the artwork that you see or what things are made of. And yet our lives are very much the same way. I've done some podcasts recently, and people are sort of interested sort of how you got where you are. And it's really a good question to ask oneself. In this coming month, which is going to be called Elul, which is the 6th month of the Jewish year, is a month of accounting for and examining oneself for the previous year, because we're going to be going into Rosh Hashanah and all the high holidays. We don't just jump in. Everything in Judaism has like a transition period. It's not like in the secular calendar, one day it's this, and then you're insane and you're in the next year and doing all kinds of crazy things one day. We get a whole month to take a look at who we are and what we've done over the past year, so that when you start the new year, you have a chance of making some headway. I mean, how would you be able to just go from, okay, this is this year and it's that year, and I'm all of a sudden going to be different, you need time to think about it. And the wonderful thing about it, in my mind, one of the wonderful things is that we're not expected to be perfect, in case you hadn't noticed. There's a lot in Judaism about doing teshuvah, which is not the same thing as repentance, but returning to who you are and making better decisions and stuff like that, and accounting and being accountable. In the same way that what one needs from one's friends and family in life is not that they be perfect, but they be accountable, that you take responsibility for who you are, that you're willing to be vulnerable at certain times, that you're willing to admit whatever, that you're willing to forgive. There's a certain kind of accountability that happens between friends. And the society has sort of desired to erase it by making things contingent on whether you vote for this one or that one or whatever, and people erase their friends from their lives overnight. It's the most ridiculous thing. But, even having a child, it's not that they made a mistake. You want them to say, yeah, that was wrong. I'll try to do better, even if they screw up again. But what are we looking for here? We're looking for a certain flexibility and an awareness and a desire to know, as Brian likes to say, which candle you are on the menorah. Who am I? How did I get where I am? The thing that brings that to the mind most for me is I wrote a song about the Purim called Connect the Dots. Now, what made me write that was that the story of Purim takes place over 9 years. Yet if you read it in the book of Esther, you could read it as though it's happening like one couple of months right after the other. But basically, it starts in the 3rd year of Ahasuerus' reign and ends in the 12th. And how did the sages of later get to put it together as one story? How did they know that everything was connected? Or is that part of the message, that everything is connected? So everything you've ever done has brought you to another place, which brought you to another place, which has brought to you to here. So we're always on our journey. The Torah is made of total journeys. Abraham journeys, Isaac, Jacob, the children, Moses, the Jewish people. It's all a journey. It's not about standing still. I mean, you have to stand still to breathe for a minute, but then you want to move on. It is told that there are 42 journeys, 42 Masai places where the Jews stopped and encamped and went to the next place on their journey from Egypt. When the truth is that the first day that we left, we were out of Egypt. What do you mean 42 journeys? Because the way it seems to be set up is when you free yourself from one level, and there is a real axiom, so to speak. If you really want to go to the next level, sometimes you have to leave, not only just transcend the past level, but leave it behind altogether. Now, this is okay if you're doing something negative. We can all understand that. Well, if I want to be healthier, I have to stop smoking. You know what I mean? I can't smoke and be healthier and whatever. But what about if you're doing okay? What about if things work on your level, on some level, and you want to do better? But a person might think, well, I'm doing fine right now. Why should I give it up? I can just bounce from here. But the truth is that we may not be able to bounce from where we are. It was said that one of the famous rabbis in the Talmud, when he went either from Jerusalem or to Babylon or the opposite, he said he had to forget his everything he learned to go to the other place. Now, it's a crazy statement because you're not allowed to forget your Torah. Someone who forgets their Torah learning is not considered doing the right thing. But what he meant was I have to forget the methods that I've learned of perceiving the world. So say we're studying and learning about how to live our lives in a certain place, in a certain way, and we develop a system that works for us. I've got the job, I can support myself, I can maybe support a family, this, that, and the other thing, but you want to move ahead. Sometimes moving ahead means giving up the good things that got you to where you are, not to go to bad, but you have to do sort of allow them not to be dictating to you how you operate on every phase. So we see this a lot in the Torah. And I think one of the things that shows up in the Torah is the fact that there's always a transition between phases. Like when a person gets up in the morning, as soon as they get up, they say Modeh Ani, but they're not really up. They can't say God's name because they didn't wash their hands. So there's a transitional prayer, washing your hands, washing your mouth. Then we can go into saying the prayers. On Shabbos, Friday, there's a period between the end of the day and when Shabbos is called Bein Hashmoshes, which has a different kind of feel to it. It takes you from one thing to the next. At the end of Yom Kippur, it doesn't go right into Sukkot. It's 4 days. This is like this period of transition because it takes a moment to move from one thing to another. But the thing that we are looking at here in some ways is to see, do I perceive myself as someone who's on a journey and who is trying to move from one level to another, whether I feel it or not, and how will I know if I'm really succeeding at all? Maybe I'm fooling myself. And one of the most what we say, friendly messages in the Torah, or just common sense messages, is to get yourself a good friend or a mentor who will tell you, who give you some good feedback, like, I see that you're making an effort. I see that this is a little different or something, because we can't judge ourselves any more than an artist can when they're performing half of the time. They think they did something terrible and it turns out to be the best work they ever did. Happens very often. Or it doesn't happen very often. But this whole idea of taking account of where we've been is a very strong stepladder to moving ahead in life. If you have a business and you call in consultation company. Usually people hate that because they walk around looking at every detail and how they're spending their money. How much does this cost? What does that guy do? What does this person do? What is that woman doing? And people get afraid, oh, they're going to lose their job. But you have to know where you stand in order to move ahead. Sometimes if you can't do that, it's like your life is a burning building, you have to just get out of it. But once you're out of it, you want to make sure maybe you've moved another level in your life. Maybe you're ready for something else in life. You want to make sure it's not just a different version of where you just were. There are people who are in relationships of different kinds, either with their jobs or with their relatives or be those close to them, and they have a lot of broken relationships, and they get out of one and they go into another one that feels different, but it's just another version of the same thing. So the good news and the bad news. The bad news is that this can happen. The good news is that the one thing that you can change in all these conditions, and the one thing you have in your life that you can work with, the clay that you can help mold, is you. And the Torah tries to teach us how to respond to something greater, to our divine consciousness, to God, to holiness, by working on ourselves in a certain way. That involves being able to listen. We had a parsha last week called Akev, where it talked about the ability to listen and meditate and think about something so that you really understand it on a deeper level, and which can help you get to this week's level, which is called Re'eh, which means to see. I'm going to read the first line of this week's chapter of the Torah. It says, Re'eh anochi nosein lifnechem hayom bracha v'klala. See, I have placed before you, I have the name Anochi, which isn't one of the names for God. It means a level of so intense innerness, we can't even figure out what it is. I have placed before you a blessing and a curse. I have placed before you good and evil. Choose good. Question is, there's a number of questions. Uh, why don't you just tell me what I'm supposed to do, and why do you have to tell me what not to do? Which is a good question. And you'll notice that hopefully that the questions that we ask make sense within the context of the subject we're talking about. And then no question is really out of bounds. If you're discussing something that's very deep, you have to ask the most obvious questions. If you're discussing nuclear physics with somebody, they ask the most, I think, most obvious question that seems to have a cast of doubt. Same thing with Torah. So for every chapter and for every line in the Torah is written to make you have a question about it. From the very beginning, Bereshis bara Elokim es hashamayim ve'es haaretz, in the beginning of God's creating of heaven and earth. What do you mean? Why is the first letter a big letter? When it says v'haaretz hoisa tohu vavohu, the earth was chaotic and void. So the obvious question is, what do you mean, right? It's not what's the spiritual whatever. We're not even up to that. Because the inside and the outside are very much connected. The way things exhibit themselves in the world, in other words, the way we are in the world, with the way we interact in the world, the way we form relationships in the world, is the result of spiritual forces that go on inside us. Many of them, because we haven't had the training, are unexplored. And hopefully part of what this class will do is to bring up in discussion how to access your deeper spirit, your deeper soul of things that you didn't know you even had available, or you knew, but you didn't know how to use. It says actually, one of the questions is, I've sent you a blessing and a curse. And some of the sages say, how can you say God sends a curse? And it says everything that comes from God is good. How can you say he gives us a blessing and a curse? That's called a klotzkach. It's an obvious question, right? It's not a deep whatever. It's just an obvious question. And sometimes we will either make obvious mistakes or create obvious things in our work to make an audience or those who we're working with ask questions. As you know, one of the most known segments of Judaism is Passover. One of the main things about Passover is the four questions. And then when talking, there's everything else is a question. It's not called the four answers. People say, well, are you looking through Judaism to find answers in your life? When I get that question, it makes me think, I didn't. I wasn't looking for an answer for anything. But what I found was the right questions in some way. You know, why I'm doing this thing that I'm doing. Why am I doing it? How am I doing it? To what end am I doing it? What's my intention of doing it? People in a relationship have to constantly renew themselves with these questions because otherwise you get into a relationship with people who are doing things by rote. People get bored with each other, rightfully so. Our intention has to be alive every day. It says the Torah and mitzvahs, Kichem hayenu v'yorach yomenu, they are our life and our length of days. When it says they're our life, it means they give you vitality. If what you're doing in life doesn't give you any vitality, we either have to add something to it or find a way to allow your perception to be affected by things you learn. One of the constant themes of this class has been what happened, the difference between inspiration, being inspired by something, having good intentions, and the actual being able to do them. It's not being able to do them, it's to integrate something so it's part of you that you do it. Many of us, in fact, it says the mind is way ahead of the heart. The mind knows things faster than the body can adjust to them. So I know I should stop smoking, but it's going to take you a while before the body stops yearning for the cigarette and this. I should stop. I should eat a little less. The mind knows it. It's not like you don't know it, but before you know it, your hand has already reached and put the thing in the mouth, and you're eating seconds and thirds where you've promised yourself you're only going to eat whatever. And I'm not commenting on anything. I'm just saying that the mind knows things first. So if inspiration is the availability to your intellect of something higher and something that can help you, how does that become part of who we are so we can act on it? And very much this week's Parsha is very much about that. And the whole idea of challenges in life are the method by which we integrate what we understand and what we were inspired by into making it part of who we are so we can actually use it. How many of us have had conversations with people stating the obvious to them about what they need to do, and they always say, yeah, I know that already, right? I know it. You know it, but you don't know it in a way that it's part of you so that it can work on you. So the Torah is a handbook. In the handbook of the Torah, in the blueprint of life, it tells you how that thing works. And amazingly enough, it makes an axiom that challenges and obstacles are a method by which you get to dig deeper and use your own faculties to conquer something that basically is a concealment of godliness. Because when we say that an obstacle is a concealment of godliness, what we're saying is we don't understand what's happening. Say you have something going on in life. There's the Rebbe Rashab, who was the fourth Lubavitch Rebbe, speaks about this in a mimer called V'yadaito. Something is going on in your life and you can't understand it at all. That's problematic. Once you understand what's happening, it becomes a situation. Oh, that's what's happening. I have a conflict between this in my mind and what they want to do, and between my commitment. Once you understand somewhat of what's going on, it becomes part of your intellect and it's less problematic and more situational. Though it may feel problematic, in other words, it's not solved yet, but at least you know what it is. Judaism breaks down the elements of life to let you concentrate on which things are going right or wrong. As we've spoken about the seven candles of menorah, the seven spheres, the seven emotional spheres are seven different emotional approaches to life, and they have to be in balance. But with obstacles, we need to talk about three intellectual aspects of life called Chachma Bina Da'as, which you know by the name of Chabad, which means wisdom, understanding, and knowledge. So let's review a little bit. We all know that we have a brain, right? We're not the straw man in Wizard of Oz or whatever, and and we think that it's telling us rational things, but there's many different aspects to the intellect. Much of the intellect has been formed by our emotional lives when we were younger. So if you lived in a dysfunctional place or a place that was uncomfortable, you developed an intellect that was meant to protect you from harmful situations as a child, which is fine. But as you get to be an adult and into a more expansive potential reaching state, it doesn't work anymore because it's meant for a child to protect itself rather than for an adult to grow itself. I don't know if that's the same as a cotyledon, the thing that covers the seed. It protects the seed, but in order for it to grow, it has to break and disintegrate, right? You put it in the ground, it breaks open, it's nothing. It's not a seed anymore, it's anything. And it's waiting for the power that God gave the soil to help it grow. And then a shoot comes up, something even greater. So let's start with the intellect. Chachma, which means the potential of whatever is above us, somehow falls into our brain. An idea pops into your head. A realization comes to you. You didn't figure it out or anything. Something comes to you, right? But it's not clear yet. You have an idea, but a person can work from that and say, oh, I get the idea now. I know I'm going to be able to solve it. But you can't solve it in that state because it's too amorphous. Then from the emptiness that it fell into, you have to put your own intellect to work and take it apart and say, oh, I understand. My brain is telling me that this thing operates in this manner. And now I have a choice because my brain is working. But what don't we have yet? We have Chachma, we have Bina, we have wisdom, we have an idea, we have the development of an idea, we have a picture of how it can expand and move around. It's still sort of an experience happening to you. The trick is something called das. Das means not says it translates sometimes as knowledge, but it means an intellectual knowledge that is so strong that it becomes part of you. You feel it inside yourself. The Torah teaches us this incredible thing that obstacles are a method for you to dig so deep inside yourself that you can solve obstacles, which are basically a concealment of godliness, and make the knowledge that you have part of you, so much so that you're able to act on it. Instead of saying, I've been learning this stuff for years and I still can't change, which is what many of us say. We all have sore points in this and that. But this is what the study of Torah does. It's not like reading another book. If we even sit here and meditate on this thing, what is Chokhmah? What does it mean an idea drops into your head? What does it take for something to drop into my head? I don't know if I've noticed myself, usually things come to me when I'm not thinking of anything else. If I empty myself out, there's room for something to come in. Sometimes things happen to people in the shower for that reason, or they're taking a walk. They take a break from what they're doing. They have a hamburger, whatever they have. They have a cup of coffee and a croissant. They just meditate for half an hour just to clear, that expression, clear the air. Clear it for what? Clear it so that the whole universe can act with you. They say, is the glass half full or half empty? And the answer, of course, is yes. Or is it? If you're always thinking and always know and always definite and always certain, where can anything else reside to even polish your certainty? This is a little bit out of balance. This is too much strictness. Person has to be able to harmonize, allowing something else in, allowing to hear other people, to hear your own heart, to hear your own soul, to even know that you can hear the hum of your own soul if you're quiet enough. It's an amazing thing. It may come to you at any time. It may express itself in an art. It may express itself at a moment of peace. It may express itself where all of a sudden you are okay with yourself exactly as you are, and that's the hum of your soul. But it's constantly fighting against the din of the materialistic world. I've got to get up, I got to work, this one's sick, I got to do that. So we're faced with these challenges where 95% of the time we're dealing with materialistic things. Imagine if during those challenges of every day you bring holiness into your day, you are conquering a part of the concealment of reality. And reality is reality in every time, place, and shape. Reality is, as some people call God, is reality. Reality is reality. Oneness is oneness. But we don't see it because we see walls and this and demands on us. But when we start to study and understand that we have a connection to something greater than ourselves, and that we can use it to enhance ourselves as we are. It's an expansive way of living. It's an expansive way of thinking. So unless Moshe, I don't know if we mentioned this before, he prayed to God. One of the reasons he wanted to go into the land was he wanted the Jewish people to have his level of sight. It's the same as him. Now, what does that mean? In some ways, it means that if you say that Moses is on the mountain talking to God, he's not seeing what we see. If we were up there, I don't know what we would see. But he was seeing godliness in some way. When he looked at the world, he saw spiritual effects. He saw the higher consciousness behind things. And he could see it like that was the reality. And he prayed to God, please let me give that to the Jewish people. But God's answer was no. But yes. No, I'll give them the ability to really hear, akev, to understand, to meditate, to work on something so they've earned it. And subliminally, by earning it and working on your own towards something, you gain spiritual and divine consciousness, which is sight, the ability to see things as they are. This is why when we understand something, what do we say? I see. Right? Don't we say, I get it, I see it. Now I can see it. I couldn't see it before. Why? Because we didn't understand it. In our toolbox, we have many tools. The Torah is the blueprint of how to use the tools. Obstacles and things that come in our way are meant because the world is, if we could feel a divine consciousness all the time, we really would not have free will. because you would know that a bell goes off when I do a mitzvah and this happens when I don't. Better you should see 50 reasons to do this and 50 reasons to do that, and they both look the same. So you have to dig really deep to admit to yourself what flame is causing you to burn. What is keeping the altar of your heart warm? And it feels like it's cold, how to reignite it with many techniques, being with people, getting help, allowing yourself to be a certain way. Because as long as the candle of life is still lit, there's much we can do. It doesn't matter your age, size, shape, or anything. As long as the candle is lit, we can make a change in the universe. And this is an extraordinary thing. This is why it says, when it comes to the times of Mashiach, when we're on the other side, we'll long for these times. Because once you're sitting in divine consciousness, there's no change you can make. But if we go into a room and we bring goodness and kindness, and the place becomes a nicer place, we've revealed the reality of that place within the world, and we have made the world a home for God. And you can do this in your own house. You put a pushka, you light a candle, you say some mitzvahs, so that when people come in, they feel, you can feel it. It's not just like you came in off the street and it's just a door be separating you. Everything about it can be different. And then when you leave, you take that with you. So we speak about Shabbos. It says that we start to feel the effect of Shabbos on Wednesday. And the Sabbath itself has an effect that lasts until that Wednesday. So we bring that holiness into the time when we have to work and have to do everything, but we bring something holy to it. And then we have to start getting ourselves ready through our activities in the real world. So one of the most effective things is not to be alone with this kind of stuff, but to discuss it with others, see what other people do. Sharing ourselves is difficult. Being vulnerable is difficult. But as we know from the past month of Av, with the destructions of the temples, we have to own our vulnerability. We have to own the things that are not right or not perfect in our lives. Because when you own them, they become a tool that you can use. You can't fight them. You can even change them. They may change without you looking. But we have to own every part of our life. And that's why we have 3 weeks in the calendar. The Torah makes that for us to be able to feel the depth of our life in certain ways. And now it leads right into a greater light. It says the full moon of Av, which was last week, 2 weeks ago. Every month, the full moon is on the 15th of the month in the lunar calendar. It says in the month of Av, it's the brightest full moon of the year. Why? Because it came out of such a devastating place. All of the tragedies that happened during Av, the destruction of the temples, the breaking of the luchos, all kinds of tragedies that happened along through history. And on some level, all of those things that on a level that we can't see, the exile that comes from not being in the right place is actually one of the things that will help you get to a higher place, because you're a little bit disconnected from yourself or disconnected from godliness, or and I don't know about anybody else, but when I feel that kind of disconnected, I feel disconnected from the people around me at the same time and from myself, because you and your social life and your relationship with heaven are all part of one fabric. And the more one is strengthened, the more they're all strengthened. And the more one is weakened, the more the other can be weakened. I don't mean broken from pain, but I mean like If we're being stubborn and cruel, it's going to affect everything around us, including you can't be that and have a good divine consciousness. It doesn't work. You could, like some people, they put up declarations of all their Ten Commandments or their ideals in life, and then you can act the opposite. Echad b'peh, echad b'lev. They have one thing in their mouth and one thing in their heart. But Judaism is about finding the seamlessness that was there when Adam and Chava were in the Garden of Eden. And what does that mean? That means that you can sense that who you are and what you do have the same flow, at least sometimes. And this is a very exciting thing. So this parsha is called Re'eh. Re'eh means see. I have set before you positive, negative, good, and bad. Why is God setting before us what's evil? Well, you can't just know what to do if you don't know what to avoid. Yes, we learn our lessons by ourselves, but if someone says, you've got, a certain kind of gas in your tank on your thing, don't go down in this pressure because it'll blow up. You can't just say, well, I have to learn it for myself. There are people like that. But it's better to know what not to do. It's going to be hard enough to figure out the rest of it and part of a journey. So here we think that we're discussing just thoughts about the universe, psychological, philosophical thoughts, but all of this comes from the Torah. The Torah is outlining to you how the world actually works. And without discussing major traumas, most the challenges in our life are meant to bring us to a state of das, where what we learn, what happens to us, what we face, what challenges us, and what we use our brain and our hearts to face, molds the intellect. Where it comes in, we start to understand about it into a place where we can own it. I get how that works for me. I am no longer doing kindness. I am kindness. And this is why Abraham is called Chesed. Jennifer, right? Abraham is Chesed. He's called kindness. He wasn't just doing kindness. He was kindness. You can become kindness. You can become restraint. You can become endurance. It can become part of you when it's needed. Of course, figuring out in life what's appropriate when and how to get the balance right, of course, is part of living life. Trial and error much of the time. But the Torah is the blueprint. If it did nothing else, it gets you thinking about these things. But of course, from having read some of it yourself that we need to have it interpreted for us. You can't really understand it by just reading itself because it's sort of a code of the universe. That's why we have mentors and teachers. And then when you start to see them, every time you see the name Jacob or the name Isaac or Abraham, you understand either kindness or restraint or harmony or what forces move forward. King David, he brought the level of song up to the level of holiness. You get to see how the forces in your life work. And then your palette, let's consider ourselves painters. Your life palette is much broader. It's not as confined as it was before because you've got a different canvas to paint on, one where you can reach your potential and that you do have a greater potential than you might have thought. And where negativity, you can get rid of it. Or you can conquer it to the point where it doesn't affect you. And third, if we work on a certain level, we can transform it. That's the greatest level. There's 3 levels that people use often. One, if there's things that are difficult for them, they avoid them totally and they're out of the picture, they're isolated. 2 is people make themselves so strong that they're not affected by anything. which can help in certain cases where your life is in danger. And then there's third, where someone can be strong enough and transform the situation, or at least discover or explore the possibility that we're able to transform the situation. How? I don't know. Bring a cup of coffee for one of your workmates that you never do. If someone yells at you, don't answer back. There's millions of things that you can do. And a lot of, like I said, it's trial and error. The Torah doesn't say this will prove this or that. Hashem says, I'm asking you to act in a certain way with a certain intent. And King David says in the Psalms, Ta'amu uruki tov Hashem, taste it and see if godliness is good, which means try something for real in your life. Get it out of the intellectual, emotional state, put it in the state of das, and light the candle. Have the intention that you're going to keep that moment of Shabbos, that you're bringing peace to your home, that there's something special. Have it in your mind that you're going to give charity as a mitzvah because it's righteousness, and you're going to help someone, and you're happy to do it because what was given to you for that purpose. See if that changes things for you. I know that in relationships, very often people want to control other people so that it doesn't affect them negatively. They don't want people leaving them. But sometimes you have to make a decision about helping someone do what's best for them, regardless of how it affects you personally, because it's best for them and best for their life and their journey. And we don't know how it's going to turn out. So back to the name of this chapter, which is Re'eh. It says, Re'eh, I have set before you numerous things. When you hear something, it's an internal kind of thing. You hear it, you have to meditate on it, you think about it, and you can make it your own. If you see something, it's an outside event that impacts you. However, what about if you envision something? That's a part of seeing that can come from the work we do, that you can actually envision something greater for yourself. That is sort of a reward for the work that one does. As it says, L'fum agrosachra, according to the effort is the reward. One can envision. When's the last time in Elul we're going to sit down and we're going to write down all the things that worked this year that we did and all the things that didn't work this year, what we'd like to change, how we'd like to grow, and perhaps what is our vision for the new year? Do we have a vision for the new year? Is it based just on getting out of the troubles that we're in this year, or is it based on achieving the potential of our own individual unique souls? You can have greater vision. So in a way, even though God refused Moses that he shouldn't give the Jewish people the divine consciousness of that he had, he allows it subliminally when you do the work. You put in the work and you start seeing things that you never thought you could see before. You don't see it right away like some people do. If you have a teacher or a mentor, they'll remember something with, what's that famous photographer, Annie, what's her name, Leibowitz? When she was starting out, you bring out all these sheets with tons of pictures on them, and you have to pick the right one. And she said, when I first started, I didn't know how to go for the right one. And then I had studied with my teacher, and she taught me how to see it. And now I can see it faster. I mean, I remember reading that about her. But it applies. Sometimes we have to know what to look for, what to choose, and what to reject. So I wish everybody increased vision. Vision relates to divine consciousness. Divine consciousness is sort of an awareness that behind everything that's happening is a hidden good that we can't see. Some things can come in just good to you. Some things are so strong they can't come. We're not big enough vessels to hold them. It's interesting. The Aramaic translation of the Torah, the Targum, translates, "I have set before you not a blessing and a curse, but I have set before you a blessing and a substitute." It's a wild thing, right? That's wild. In other words, picture electricity. If you have enough parts to be a refrigerator and the electricity flows into you, it's good. If it's a massive amount of electricity and you have nothing to use it, it's still good, but you can't use it. It's going to substitute into something that's shaky. So what we're trying to do is build ourselves into the vessels to handle the higher energies that we discover through the work. But it does take the work. That's what Torah and mitzvahs are. Mitzvahs are connections. They are channels. They are things in this world that allow you to draw energy from a world above this world. And if we're lucky, we want it to show up in our work. People say, "Oh, I enjoyed being with you." It could be on that level. Or when I'm around you, I feel good. You always make me feel better. Or I see you allowed me to speak up my mind and you didn't have anything to say and tell me I was crazy and tell me it's going to be all right. Thank you. Just knowing certain things about life. The Torah is life, and it means in Aramaic, it's called Deraisa. Torah is called Deraisa, which means to draw light from. It's not just the law. What is a law? A law is is the actual way a thing expresses itself in physical reality, but it has much deeper consequences. It's not just do this or I'm going to kill you. That's not Judaism. Even though it has to speak in a certain way, if you do this, things will work in your life. It says, if you go against me, in other words, if you live a life that's totally anti to your soul and your body and your people around you, you're going to have a mess. So it says, if God says do this and you do that, it doesn't mean you're going to struck down for everything, depending on the level. But if one negates all of that, the consequences of that are karmic. As you put forth into the universe, also could come back to you. And then it says about the righteous, God will now not allow anybody to harm their bones. There are certain situations where you want to do something and it fails over and over again. And later you find out it was the best thing that happened, that you couldn't do it because it wasn't right for you. That's God too saying, no, no, you don't have to go there. I'm going to help you not go there. Now, after having discussions like this, do we feel like there's free will, or do we feel like, does the Torah feel like it's telling you what to do? Or it's explaining to you that you have tremendous free will, but the more you know about how something works, the more your will can work. Now, the word will, ratzon, is very important because once you know something, to put it into action, you have to use the faculty of your will. You have to want it and will it to happen, which means you have to do something. And this comes also through the work. Like we said before, if your intellect understands this, but you don't make it yours, it weakens your will. But if you feel it so strongly that this is true, the desire is stronger. I'm not just saying it, I feel it. I feel like I can't do that. It's not that I'm not going to do this on Shabbos. There's part of me that repels against it. It's part of me that knows that this is not part of what's going on. People acting in a negative way, and you go, I can't be around that. There's part of you that knows that that's bad. People think talking about other people is okay. It's not. A lot of times when we're in situations where people are acting like that, either we have to say something or walk away. and especially don't believe it. But it's nice to have the edge of saying, I've got some perspectives here that can help me. I'll make some mistakes, big deal. But I'm going to be more true to myself this way because this is what I know that I've worked for and that I have felt and I've tried out, because we're going to try things out and make mistakes. But they say if the dog bites you once, it's the dog's fault. If the dog bites you twice, stop going by the dog. Meaning that once you make a mistake, learn from it because it was given to you as a gift. It wasn't given to you to do over and over again. And if you can't stop yourself, that's when maybe we need help. Those are the various addictions that we have in life. So, Re'eh, I hope everybody will make good choices towards bringing light and love and warmth to their little corner of the world. And it's not a little corner because all of the corners are connected, because all Jews are connected. And we're all connected to ourselves, to our history, to each other, and to the land. We are connected to the land. It is part of who we are. It's part of the oneness of Judaism. So I wish everybody a good Shabbos. It's Shabbos Mavorchim. It's going to be Elul. It's going to be a joyous time. It says the king is in the field during the next month, which means that holiness and spirituality are much more available to you. Says when the Alter Rebbe says, when the king is in the palace, you have to go through a lot of rigmarole to try to get to see him. But this month, it's as though he's traveling through your town, and you can stop and ask for whatever you want. So we'll talk more about that. Please look it up on Chabad.org at Elul, and everybody should have a good Shabbos. This is Phillip Namanworth thanking you for making this evening whole. And this is Creative Spirituality, and we will see you again next week.
Soul is a candle. Every soul is a candle of God, sent down to this world to your special